I'm your host, Annie Bowles, and this is News du Jour. Hey everyone, and welcome back to the News du Jour, a calmer space to consume the news. Okay, so when I sat down to write today, you guys, I thought, it's such a slow news day. I'm going to have to dig for stories. But then things really heated up pretty quickly as I began writing. So we have a lot to go over before you start your weekend. Let's jump into it. Right off the bat, we have two mini stories for you guys. First up, Montana is actually close to banning TikTok in their state, but people are really skeptical how such a ban might be enforced, how it would, logistically work. Of course, if TikTok was banned nationwide, they would take it out of any app store, so it wouldn't be available on Apple iTunes or on your Android app store. But if it's just one state, how are they going to do that? What if someone crosses state lines and downloads TikTok and then drives back into Montana? Are they going to check people's phones for the app? I mean, how are they going to go about that? It definitely seems a little far-fetched. That said, they're close to doing it. So I guess we'll just keep you guys posted on whether that goes through or not and how they plan to go about it. And then next up in our mini stories, it seems that Prince Harry will be attending his father's coronation after all, despite original announcements saying that he would not actually be invited. So there's no mention of Meghan attending. It seems that she will be staying at home with their kids, but we shall see. Things are ever changing with the British royal family these days, so stay tuned. And then first up in our longer stories today, North Korea sends Japan into a tailspin. So Wednesday evening, North Korea sent off a missile that had Japan ducking for cover. Sirens sounded and they ordered evacuation in a northern area of the country, but then retracted that evacuation order within 30 minutes of sending it out. Confusion and chaos were definitely the result. So what exactly happened to cause this? Well, basically, things have been very tense lately between North Korea and the surrounding areas, the world, really. North Korea is kind of a loose cannon, and COVID led a lot of people to believe that things might be more dire there than ever. They claim to not have a single case of COVID, but given their proximity to the original source, that is super unlikely. So them saying that they had none almost made it seem like they might be covering up for a real crisis that was going on. So they're kind of seeming more and more like a cornered animal and definitely attention seeking as well. So they launched this missile, and given all this tension brewing, Japan saw it coming and thought, they're actually doing it. They're trying to strike us. And they sounded the alarm quite literally. Luckily, the missile did not land on the island, but landed in the water. So they were able to call off the alarm pretty quickly, like I mentioned. North Korea has fired off 27 other missiles in this year alone. So people in the area are getting pretty annoyed and wondering what their true intentions are with these missiles. Are they a paper tiger and not a real threat, or are they practicing for the real deal? It's hard to say. This incident had school times delayed and trains paused and more. Like I mentioned, chaos and confusion were the result of this. I'm sure North Korean leadership is enjoying the chaos that they have created, as it seems that their main intention is simply to antagonize the rest of the world. Because to be clear, they have threatened much further locations than just Japan. they pose a threat to all nations, not just those who are nearby. South Korea has been attempting to call North Korea twice a day for the past week, and North Korea has not been answering. I have heard North Korea described by a defector as the crazy uncle in the closet, and that kind of put this relationship into perspective for me between North and South Korea. There's obviously a lot of cultural overlap, like a family has, but North Korea has simply gone off to do their own thing, and South Korea does not necessarily agree or understand it or approve of it, but they still feel a kind of responsibility for keeping them in check, just like that crazy uncle we're all having to rein in sometimes. So South Korea, their calls going unanswered. Well, imagine if you were calling that person in your family off the hook and they weren't answering. It would make everyone nervous, right? Well, that's where we're at now. And for our next story today, have they dug up the mole? So we got word yesterday that a 21-year-old National Guardsman was arrested by the FBI, and he is likely the person responsible for the classified military leak we saw last week. The FBI proceeded to search the young man's home, and he is set to be arraigned same day, so the day that I'm recording this, but by the time you guys are hearing it, he likely will have been arraigned. It seems he began an online group called Thug Shaker Central. Again, I can't make this shit up, you guys. Where 20 to 30 members would exchange what you might expect from someone like this. Racist memes, their love of guns, and video games. And I doubt it will surprise you, but this group was made up of mostly young men. And guys, this man, quote unquote, he looks about 5 years old. Okay, I'm exaggerating, but he definitely has a baby face, and it's really hard to imagine that he actually understood the vast ramifications of his actions. Or maybe he did, and that's why he did it. International notoriety. But he definitely achieved that, and his military career is over. And now he will certainly face criminal charges. Stay tuned for more info on this quickly unfolding story. And lastly for today, before we go for the weekend, Trump is back in New York facing civil fraud charges. So it was announced that Donald Trump has arrived back in New York. He is facing questioning on a $250 million civil fraud lawsuit brought by Letitia James, the New York State Attorney General. Now, I want to make this clear. Letitia James is the New York State Attorney General, and she is not to be confused with Alvin Bragg, the Manhattan District Attorney, who's bringing the other charges, so the criminal charges. As Trump arrived for his deposition, there were a number of protesters waiting outside the doors from both sides of the aisle. The trial is set to begin for this case on October the 2nd. He was questioned by the AG before in August, and he pled the fifth over 400 times, which, it's not a good look, but sometimes it's better than the alternative, especially with someone like him who has a tendency to go off script. He also, of course, has two other serious investigations underway right now. The one led by Jack Smith on Capitol Hill regarding January 6th, and there's another case in Georgia regarding federal election interference. So, of course, we're going to keep you guys updated on all of these unfolding stories. Stay tuned, and that, for this week, is the news du jour. Today, I wanted to leave you guys with one of my favorite quotes. Everybody is a genius, but if you judge a fish by its ability to climb a tree, it will live its whole life believing that it's stupid. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe on whatever podcast platform you use to listen. a rate and review or shout out on social media would mean the world to us and help us be able to keep creating the news du jour. But the best way to support all of our work is to become a patron at www.patreon.com/sugarfree media. You can also follow us on social media under sugarfreemedia.co on Instagram and just sugarfreemedia, all one word, on TikTok. We appreciate you listening and look forward to telling you about the news again next time on News du Jour.
Broadcasting from Oklahoma.